I have a long way to go, but why am I running in place? I scream out of frustration, but the empty air echoes. I hope tomorrow will be different from today. I'm just wishing, because the dawn before the sun rises is the darkest. Even in the far future, never forget the you of right now. Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Tabassum Promi, accompanying you for the first time in Team Bertho as a new face you'll be seeing. As a complete stranger to you guys, if I had to say something to make myself familiar to, it would be I love books, coffee, K drama, wrestling, and the K pop groups I stand. Now that you get my vibe, I am present here with you with a new season, new episode 1 of the second season of Ichi-go Ichi-e. Ichi-go Ichi-e, our live series where we invite initiators, activists, and instructors from all over the world to join us virtually and keep you, our audience, engaged with the valuable discussions and skill-based sessions. This project is brought to you by Team Bertho and the Youth Exchange South to South Yes Girls movement. If you're wondering, Ichigo Ichi-e is a Japanese four-character idiom, which describes as treasuring the unrepeatable nature of a moment, usually translated as for this time only and once in a lifetime. Just like each of the moments we live is a once in a lifetime moment. Just like the sweetness of a guest we have here with us, and having her here with us can be deemed as a once in a lifetime opportunity too. Our guest for today is a student who's utterly enthusiastic and passionate about raising awareness regarding young people's issues. She is also a youth ambassador to many charities in her area. She runs many of her own initiatives, both locally and internationally, including anti bullying work, which is indeed an issue right now, I believe. The topic that she'll be discussing with us today is young people's mental health. Young people, the youth, just like you and I, and the developments, the adaptations, the complexities, and the psychological difficulties we hit upon. With the topic young people's mental health, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our guest, Elsa Arnold. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure having you. And even though I've said before, and I'm still gonna say it on live, your smile is beautiful, and I think I'm in love with it.
Oh,
So, how are you
thank you.
feeling while being with us?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm a bit nervous because I'm not very good at speaking, but we'll see what happens.
But you sound sweet anyway. So, before we kick off the main session, let's have a little chit chat, shall we? A little brief discussion about what you actually do, what's your job, and why are you here with us.
Yeah. So I like do loads of different things. Primarily I'm a student really, and that's what I go to university. I'm a second year student in London. But yeah, I guess like my mental health and wellbeing work is mostly voluntary, with a lot of charities in the UK. Which I really, really love and enjoy, and have all come. I'll talk a bit about it, but all came about off the back of my own experiences. Um, so yeah,
Okay, that was pretty brief and sweet. So I'm gonna hand off the stage to you now, and you can go on with your session. I'm gonna be with you again towards the end with the Q&A session and the outro. So thank you again to be here with us, and the floor is yours now, Elsa.
cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I am really excited to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about. I'm going to start talking a little bit about my story, and I'm going to actually read something that I wrote a few months ago, as part of the launch of a project that I will also talk about. Um, but I'm going to read this to you anyway because it gives it a good sort of background to why I do the things I do. Um, so, my story starts like this. The fact that I struggled at school was never really a secret, but the extent to which I struggled was. I experienced bullying and generally found a lot of pressures of being a teenager today overwhelming and difficult to deal with. When I was 14, I began self harming and I felt completely out of control with it. When I was 15, I was in so much pain I knew I couldn't live through it anymore. One day I woke up and knew it would be my last. A teacher not giving up on me that day saved my life. No one ever knew. I didn't get the support I needed at school. Despite their good intentions, the lack of resources, training, and funding available to them meant that they struggled to know how to respond sometimes. And it eventually put me off asking for help and reaching out, just for fear of being misunderstood. In the UK, we have a mental health service called CAMS. It's really the the Children and Adolescent Mental Health Service. And I was referred to this service twice. It's a free service for young people to get support with their mental health. So I was referred to this service twice. Before the first assessment, you have to do an assessment before you can then get the help. Before the first assessment, I had been in a really bad place with self-harm. So I was kind of consumed by, in fact, I should have said at the beginning of this, I was going to mention self-harm. So just to put trigger warning out there. I was totally consumed by with hurting myself and was in a terrible place. Just days before this first assessment, and I went to the assessment, and at the end of it, they said that I was fine and I didn't need help. I don't know about you, but I think if somebody is in such a bad place, young person, adult, whoever it is, but in such a bad place that they think that they're hurting themselves, they deserve to get help. We all deserve to get help, but doesn't it sound awful to turn somebody away who is so clearly, desperately screaming for some help? So I was turned away. 4 months later, I was referred again, because 4 months later, my self-harm was more out of control and I really didn't want to be here, like, on the planet. So I was referred to this service again. But in the UK, we have a real issue with this service being overstretched. And so people, particularly young people, aren't getting the help they need when they need it. So the waiting list was too long. I couldn't wait. And I ended up accessing private help. It absolutely should not have taken that long for me to be able to get the help I needed. And had I not been able to access private healthcare, I would have had to wait a lot longer. I really, really believe that it was a miracle that I held on for so long. But at the same time, the miracle came from the people and the organizations and the charities who saw something in me which gave me hope when I didn't think there was any. The hope that I found came from people who didn't give up on me. It came from things like dance classes and being able to express myself in different ways. And it came from me making the effort to push myself and to not give up on myself even when I wanted to, or I felt like it was the only option. 15-year-old Elsa wouldn't believe what she's done for the last few years. She would never believe that she would be sitting here right now speaking about her experiences. She didn't think that she would sit her exams at the end of when she was 16, the compulsory exams that we have. So I think 15-year-old Elsa would be quite proud of me now. And I am proud of myself, because it takes a lot to overcome something like that. But like I say, I was very lucky to get the support I needed. There is far too much of just people in general being told that they're not unwell enough to get support, or they're not unwell enough to be valued in the same way as somebody else struggling with their mental health. We all deserve to feel supported and to feel like we can access things when we need it. So what I'm really going to kind of touch more on in a minute is this hope that I found, and is everything that I do, pretty much every action I do in my day-to-day life is centered around hope, whether that is the hope that whether that's for me personally and for how far I've come, whether that's or inspiring other people and showing people maybe who are in a similar position and don't see any light around them, that actually things can get better. And it's incredibly difficult when you're in a sort of very, very dark tunnel and it's very narrow and you're convinced that there is no light at the end. It is really hard. But but this is why I share my story. I share my story because I thought that, and I did come out the other side. And I think if I had had somebody when I was 15 who I could have looked to and thought, oh look, she came out of it, I can too, that could have might have made a huge difference. So yeah, that I added some bits in there. I kind of changed that, what I just read out, but I wrote that as part of a fundraising kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, project, campaign at the moment. So I'm doing like a series of challenges for a charity in the UK called Young Minds, who do support young people's mental health in so many different ways and are incredible. So yeah, that is what I'm currently doing for them. But I'm also an activist for them, and like I say, have lots of other roles with different charities. So that's an overview sort of my story. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that, but I hope that gives you a sense of why I kind of am so passionate about the things that I do. But focusing on hope and the things that gave me hope and the things that I think we can all do to try and inspire hope, whether that's in our like local communities or our, I don't know, groups that we're part of, whatever it is, we all do have a role to play in supporting each other. And I don't just want to speak about I don't want to sit here for however long and speak about the situation that young people's mental health is currently in and that sort of, and just leave it at that. I would like anybody listening to leave thinking, oh, I can go and also make a difference and also maybe help someone, or maybe just reach out, because the really key important thing to remember here is that every single one of us has mental health, just like we all have physical health. I don't think people would say I don't have physical health. We all could break our arm, we all get headaches, we all experience physical health. There is a difference between having a mental health condition or a mental illness to having mental health, because we all are happy and sad and feel millions of different emotions every single day. So honestly, if you go away with one thing from this, take away that we all have mental health, and that is so key and important to remember. So we all have a role to play in supporting each other, because we can all go through ups and downs with it. Our mental health is on a sort of continuum where we're weaving in and out of millions of different emotions all the time. So I actually happened to do a talk on this the other day with a group in my local community on how the role the community can play in supporting people's well-being. And we had some really, really great discussions about it, and just really practical things, mostly that are just about being more aware of the people around us, and really thinking about how our actions, like tiny actions, tiny things like asking how you are, tiny things like, I don't know, kind of displaying these random acts of kindness that we always talk about, can impact somebody, because you never know what's going on in somebody else's life. And when you're in a space of complete darkness, those random acts of kindness actually mean, like, have a much deeper impact than they might do to somebody else. So really don't underestimate the power that your actions have on somebody. If I had, I mean, even now, when somebody does something totally out of the blue, but just really lovely, it has an impact on you. When at the beginning, someone mentioned that I do anti-bullying work. When I go into these schools, I went into a load of schools last November. One of the first things I ask them, or one of the discussions that we have, is about how it makes you feel when somebody is kind to you, when someone does something nice for you, and the impact that it has. And the kids give examples, and some of these examples are from years ago, but they've stuck with them and they still remember them. And that's really powerful. These things, they stay with you. Teachers at school who sat down and spent time with me and supported me, they're the teachers I remember, and that still impacts me today. So we can all help each other. We can reach out. We can make sure that you don't need training for this. You don't need to be a mental health professional to be a friend, to be a shoulder that someone can lean on. And that doesn't mean take on the weight of the world at all, because none of us can do that. None of us should do that. But it simply means just, be available to people, and don't be. It doesn't need to be awkward. It doesn't need to be, and it might feel like that sometimes, but it doesn't need to be a huge deal. We're going to sit down and talk about mental health right now. How are you? Tell me everything. It doesn't need to be like a big thing. It can be a very general, passing thing, but very open and very, meaningful and nice. So I really believe in that. I really believe that we can all play more of a role in just being more aware of people, even strangers. You see a stranger, give them a smile. I love smiling at people. I think I love it when people smile at me. So yeah. With all of that, mental health, some mental health conditions are really misunderstood, can be really misunderstood, and mental health is still and can be a really taboo topic. And I'm sure it is depending on the communities you're a part of, the cultures you're a part of. I'm sure all of those things play a role in how you have a conversation about well-being and mental health. But going back to the no young person should feel alone, and no one should feel embarrassed or like they don't deserve help when they do. Don't assume or don't assume people's situations. Don't underestimate again your importance and the impact that you can have by just being a friendly face and being someone that somebody feels comfortable around. Because of the sort of awkwardness of the topic, sometimes it does put people off, and we need to work together to make sure that it's less of an awkward and kind of strange conversation to have, because we wouldn't have an issue sitting down and talking about our broken arm or our headache, but for some reason we have an issue sitting down and talking about how we feel. There is a difference, but it's almost a lot more important. A couple of things, the last things I wanted to just think about and talk about, because if there are any young people watching who are struggling, or who might have friends who are struggling, or parents with kids who are struggling, for me, I felt very, very pressured to have to talk to people. And that's going to sound weird after everything else I've said, because I've been saying, talk to people, talk to people, talk to people. But now I'm going to say, actually, talking doesn't work for everyone, because it doesn't. For me, you might have, I don't know how this has come across, but I really, really wanted, my biggest struggles is speaking, is communicating verbally. It's just so hard for me. And so sitting down in a room with a therapist and talking about all of the things that I felt really wasn't my idea of comfort, or kind of, I don't know, it made me put me very on edge, because I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to articulate how I was feeling. So I used more creative things. I love dance. I love music. I love all those. I love being creative, and I love expressing myself through those things. So what I would like to encourage anyone who is struggling to talk about how they're feeling. Talking is important, and ultimately that's the point you want to get to. But don't feel like, if you can't put into words how you feel, that you don't deserve help, that you're a failure, that there's still no hope, because we do talk a lot about talking. It's like all of our conversations about mental health are about talking. We have to talk. We need to talk. We need to. Like, it's all about words. I would definitely argue that isn't necessarily true for everybody. And for some people, for me, dance helped more than talking. And I would choose it any day over having to speak. There are so many different forms of communication out there. You might like writing a poem, you might like singing, you might like drawing, dancing, running, whatever you like. All of those things are ways of channeling emotion, expressing emotion, communicating, and they're equally as valuable as talking. And what I found was, when through dance, I understood myself more, and so I could sit down and I could talk more. So that's a big thing that I'm constantly putting out there, that I really think needs a bit more attention. Talking's good, but be patient with yourself. It's hard, you know. We should acknowledge how hard it is a bit more. Yeah. So yeah, those creative things really helped me. Those finding people with something in common, finding groups that I was really passionate about being a part of, was really meaningful to me. So all the charity work that I've been doing. Something that I've learnt, still really hard, and I think it's hard for all of us all the time, is I've always compared myself to other people. I've always felt like, I've always questioned myself. Why am I not like them? Why can't I get that grade when they can? Why am I like this? And I've really learned, especially over the last year, really, just to be myself, and just to be happy being myself. And that's a really difficult thing, actually, for everybody, I think. And I could sit here and say, don't compare yourself to other people. Great advice, but what can you do with that? Because it is hard, and I don't think, it's not like I don't compare myself to people now, but I'm more aware of it. So it's worth being aware of, and just thinking about how, I think especially at school, how your personal strengths might be different from other people's, but how that can be a really good thing. So kind of looking at things that might be different, but seeing the really positive side of them. There is young people's mental health is an extremely broad topic. I could talk about so many different parts of it for ages, and this has been a very kind of sporadic, that's the word, sporadic kind of talk. But if I draw anything out of kind of all the mumble jumble that I've said that might have made no sense, it's that there is hope for everybody. There is light at the end of the tunnel for everybody, no matter how kind of dark it seems. There is light, there is hope. And if you're watching this and you are struggling now, you probably struggling to quite an extreme extent, you might be kind of disregarding this and being like, Elsa, no, though, I can't get out of it. I actually really do understand that, and that's why I'd say, there is hope for all of us, but we all have different journeys to finding it. Again, it goes back to not comparing yourself to other people. Don't compare your journey to somebody else's journey. We all go on these different paths with everything. With mental health, maybe finding hope, maybe getting to the end of that tunnel. With learning a new skill, we all learn differently. We think differently. We are different. And so, especially with recovery from a mental health illness or from anything, it can be easy to say, but they kind of were struggling a couple of months ago, and now look at them, they're doing so much better. Why am I not like that? It's so easy to do that, and hard not to do it. But you are on your own journey. It is okay to be patient with yourself and to take your time and to discover what works for you. And it is hard because it takes time, and when you're in a painful place, you don't want it to take time. But please, if I can say anything to anybody that might be watching and who is really in a bad place, don't give up, because life is here, and life, it can and will get better. But be patient with yourself and work out what works best for you. I am extremely aware that this was a very, very all over the place, like I've jumped from one topic to another topic talk. But like I say, I could talk about this sort of stuff for ages. And if you, I kind of break stuff down more into, I prefer writing. Like I say, I'm not very good at talking. I break stuff down more on social media posts and stuff like that, which I'm sure you can find me kind of quite easily online. So feel free to connect. But equally, I think you can ask some questions if you want to ask some questions, like now. And happy to answer anything.
Thank you so much, Elsa. The first thing I'm gonna say is when I was listening to you talk, the emotions were so raw and candid because I could actually relate the situations you were describing, like in real time. Like trigger warning, self harm, it is a very serious issue right now. There are a lot of people who are into it we don't even know of. I probably have a friend who is into self harm, but I don't even know how that person is going through. It is such a close ended topic, and you can't even go to your parents about it. There's a saying that parents can solve any problem in the world because they're your parents, but since self harm being a very close ended topic, you can't even go to your parents for that because they're going to worry about you. And in the inevitable future, not knowing what's going to happen, it really eats you out from the inside. And Elsa, honestly, I'm really proud of you for fighting this situation and for where you are right now. You really deserve a clap for that. And
No.
to quote from the article you have on BBC, an interview probably, which was titled Self Harm Guidance to Include Advice for Schools and Prisons, you have quoted that I felt knocked down. You don't believe you deserve help anyway, and when you're not given it, you just feel knocked down. This thing really hit me, honestly, and I believe a lot of viewers who are watching right now who has listened to your session, they probably feel the same thing too. Like when you're when you don't have that kind of mental health, when you're on the verge of a breakdown, you feel like you don't deserve anything. And like, yeah, I can't even describe what I'm trying to say. But anyways, again, you mentioned dancing. I'm sorry. To mention dancing, I love to dance too, and I've once written a small little piece on self harm. I haven't really published it anywhere yet. It's just an own thing, and I quoted that you should like try dancing till everything hurts, till your whole body hurts before you pick up that blade. Just dance. I have a friend who reads. She reads like 200 books a year, and I've heard from her that whenever she feels stressed or whenever she feels like an anxiety attack is coming on or a panic attack is coming on, she tends to just sit down and start reading because that's what gets your mind occupied. Gets that's what helps to kick those negative thoughts out of the mind that I should do something right now. Just read. So, yeah, Elsa, thank you so much. And I actually felt like I was having war flashbacks because all of this was really close and personal. And honestly, the generation we are in right now, mental health really should be talked about because it is very much real, just like physical health. And being up close and personal about your own mental health, it really is needed. Well, much needed right now. So before we move on to the question answer session, let me read a very sweet comment we got from Nang Sirisot. I don't know if I pronounced the name right. I'm sorry if I didn't. They wrote that my fave, hey Elsa with a red heart, which is actually very sweet.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the question answer session. Ahmed Sajid has a question. What would be my initial steps when I could feel my close friend is mentally troubled or something? Okay, it's a really important question, and if you give us a little bit of tips about it, it would be very much useful. So go on.
Yeah, very, very good question. Um, Actually, something I should speak about more, because if you have a friend struggling, that I think is one of the hardest things to know what to do, and you so desperate to help, but you're sort of, yeah, really good question. Um, um, yeah, so initial steps definitely probably sounds really obvious, or maybe kind of maybe difficult as well, but approaching them and asking them how they are, but in a very open way. You know, we don't, like I said, don't assume anything. We should never assume the position that somebody's in, or even if they're sort of a really close friend, you never know what's going on or why they might be engaging in particular behavior or just struggling. So, yeah, I definitely say approach them, ask them how they are, but also ask them, have a conversation about other people that they might feel comfortable talking to. Sometimes it is hard to speak to people that you know, and it might be easier to speak to somebody that you're not that you're comfortable with but isn't like a really close friend. So encouraging them to open up to either yourself or somebody else that they're comfortable with. I think as a friend, if you're quite close with them, then they'll probably really trust you, and so being that person that encourages them not to keep everything to themselves and to bottle up their emotions is a really key role that you can play. Um, Equally, if they do open up, it's really important that you take care of yourself as well. It can be hard to listen to someone's experiences. So taking time out for yourself, knowing that you don't have to solve the problem. Same for parents. If your child or your friend comes to you and says something worrying or is struggling, you're not you don't need to solve the issue as much as you'd like to, and as much as it would be great if you could. It's not about that. The best thing you can do is listen. rather than sit and ask like quick fire questions. So my biggest piece of advice is to listen and encourage speaking.
Well, a lot of people actually very much appreciate to have someone who just listens
Yeah.
because as you've said that but for you speaking or opening up doesn't always work. It really doesn't work for everyone. But if you have someone who just listens, like you don't have to necessarily solve a problem. You're just
Mm.
there to vent, just to
Yeah.
help that person vent. It's gonna be very helpful if people who have like normal mental health issues has someone who can just sit down and listen. You don't have to solve anything. Yeah,
Mm.
I'm also talking all over the place because today's issue has somehow like unexpectedly is very relatable to
Yeah.
you and to me, and that is why I feel like I'm all over the place. All right, so
Oh,
moving on to our
I'm
next
sorry.
question.
Do you know, just very quickly, I should have said at the beginning as well that I would touch on some sensitive topics, and I'm absolutely my fault for not saying that. But
Mm, all right.
I'm sorry. It's sort of, I mean, not necessarily sorry, but I hope again, make sure you take care of yourself. But it is a very kind of yeah, open, um, difficult topic to even listen about. So if
Yeah,
yeah,
it's because like we've been so habituated to being close-ended. When we
mm,
actually open up and start talking about it, it seems hard.
mm,
That is
yeah.
why. So the next question we have from is Arshi Afsana. She said that if your life was a movie, what genre it would be? Now that is a question
Wow.
that can lighten up the air right now.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh, I don't know, because I'm tempted to go for my favorite genre, but it definitely doesn't represent my life. Um, hmm. Oh, that is a really hard question. I don't know. I feel like maybe
Would you like to live
an
in a
action
fantasy
movie.
world?
Maybe a fantasy one. Maybe like
Action.
maybe a fantasy action. That's what I.
Okay, fantasy and action mixed genre, like some
Yeah.
fantasy and you have like a fighting action little
Yeah.
bit here and there.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
That's gonna be really fun because as a person who reads book, whenever I read fantasy books, I'm like, I wish I could be in that universe so I don't
Yeah.
have to deal with mental health issues because
Yeah.
the protagonist usually seems so perfect. I
Yeah.
wish I could be that
That's
person.
true. That's true. But yeah, no, I think that would be quite a fun movie, like a fantasy action. That's yeah, just full of lots of stuff.
With a touch of comedy.
Yeah, with a bit of comedy. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that was a very sweet question. And thank you, Arshi Afsana, for popping up that question because we were getting
We
depressed while
needed it.
talking about this
Yeah.
topic. We needed this. All right, so the last question we'll be taking today is from Murshidul Alam Bhuyan. He said that what would be the title and the last line of your autobiography if you were to write one at this point of time? Now, that's an intellectual question. First movie, now book.
Okay, what was the title and last line of your autobiography? Oh gosh, that's a question. Um, the title. Oh God, I don't know. Rubbish with these questions, aren't I? I I would say the title would be something like I want to say like dancing in the rain, but that's because there I don't think that would be the title, but it could. It's a quite a good kind of hypothetical title. Because when you're in that space, it's like there's a storm. It's like it's raining constantly, and like you can't get out of it. And I feel like I did sort of dance through it, like quite literally, just get through it through doing dancing, expressing myself. So I quite like dancing through the rain, or dancing in the rain, something like that. Something like that.
That sounds like a very like romanticized
Yeah,
title,
it
which
does.
is very intriguing.
It does.
Like I once saw in a movie, or if I read in a book, I don't really remember. The main character was dancing in the rain while wearing a red dress, which was like beautiful if I
Yeah,
imagined it.
yeah, that is amazing. Yeah. And the last line. um, Maybe hope is real. Hope is something about hope, or you, hope is real. Maybe this is very hypothetical.
It's a
I
bit
do hope.
brief, but it's powerful.
Yeah. Oh, it would be a short last line, definitely. Yeah.
The short last line tend to be usually very powerful. So
Yeah,
you're
I
right on
agree.
point with that.
Yeah, I agree.
So our Q&A session is over, and it has been like, I'm not necessarily gonna say pleasure. It's been a bittersweet memory because we started out laughing, and then in the middle we got a little bit emotional, a little bit like naked feelings and stuff, and then through the end we started laughing again, which was like a roller coaster ride. I
Mm,
really enjoy like the season 2 first episode. This is exactly how the season 2 first episode of Ichi-go Ichi-e should be. We really hit the point, and
mm.
we have you here. That is why we hit the point, basically. So before we end up, a little more brief talk about the young people's mental health. Like, what would you say as a conclusion of this whole session?
I would say remember that. I mean, it's actually I should make a point. It's different all over the world, obviously, and I'm speaking from my experiences in the UK. But remember that. No, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I'm going to change it. I would say when it comes to mental health generally, keep an open mind, or always be open minded, and reach out to each other. Um, Remember that everybody deserves help and support, and everyone's experiences are different. And if you're struggling, then don't give up, because it will get better. But be patient with yourself and enjoy your own journey. So, yeah.
All right, thank you so much. So now I want to ask you for your insight. Like, how's how is it like being here with us today? Did you enjoy conducting this session with your like own materials, or as well as the Q&A session? How was this brief little journey with us, like 43 minutes running now, and your experience with this overall? How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel good. It's been really nice to be a part of it. Wasn't really sure what to expect, but it's been really I like that, and I like that. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I'm sure I won't enjoy watching myself back, but I've really enjoyed being here. And I'm again, I know it was quite. I went into it quite deeply, but at the same time, like I say, I think it's sometimes important to just speak like it is, just to really paint a picture of like life. So, but I've really enjoyed being here. So thank you for having me.
Same to you. Having you here was immaculate. Now, I believe that you already know enough about Team Bertho and the initiatives that are being carried out, connecting everyone with this wonderful bond and the same bond or connection, whatever you say, that brought you here as our guest today. So, do you have any feedbacks or suggestions or just anything to acknowledge from your side before we close the curtain of today's session?
Um, well, something I've really picked up from being a part of lots of different things with you now is how empowering you are actually for particularly young people to use their voices and to feel supported with their passions and what they kind of want to make a difference with. So yeah, I think I mean, I'm sure for any people watching, they probably are familiar with what you do and have some sort of drive to create change. But no, that's been one of the things that's really stood out for me working with you guys and feeling very empowered.
Thank you so much. And having you here was immaculate. I don't even know how many times I've said about having you here was a pleasure, but I can't stop saying that because I don't know, it's just immaculate, immaculate. So, thank you so much for being here with us,
Oh,
Elsa.
thank
And
you.
since we were talking about young people's mental health, and you as a youth, I'm a youth too, and probably most of our viewers who are watching us right now, I bet they got like the suggestions they needed, and I hope they reach out whatever kind of help they need, and I hope this helped them. So thank you so much, and I hope that they're thanking you too for conducting this session to open up and give them a little bit of bits and pieces of suggestions here and there. So thank you so much, Elsa. But today we have to end it here, and unfortunately, sadly, please stay in touch and also follow Elsa on her Instagram. We have her IG handle right in the description of this live. And thank you so much, Elsa. Elsa Arnold from United Kingdom, an absolute queen. So before we end, I'm going to say that since COVID-19 is a serious issue right now, so please don't forget to wear your mask, use sanitizer, maintain social distancing, stay safe, and thank you so much for being here with us. And those of you who are suffering out there, please don't give up. Hold on right there. You're going to get your help. Someone is going to help you. Even though, like I said in the intro, the dawn right before the sun rises is the darkest. Even in the far future, never forget the person you are right now. So thank you so much to everyone. I have to close the curtain here right now. This was Tabassum Promi, first episode of season 2 of Ichi-go Ichi-e, and probably you're gonna see more of me. So thank you so much to everyone who has been watching. Love yourself, love myself. Peace. Thank you.